we found ourselves asking questions that we needed to prove.
Yeah.
So we looked at African children having a better local capabilities on the field, agility, the predisposition of the ball, and balance. So as time went on, we had to now find research to answer our observations on the field.
Now, why do you think it's... I read some of your proposals or your presentations, and it's to do with the fact that maybe they weren't as wrapped in cotton wool as kids. They were allowed to go out and explore and run around and really learn their environments and what they're capable of. Is that true?
That is the social economic factor, where African children do not have the financial resources to be bought toys all the time. So gathering a plastic ball for them is where the creativity starts. And then it is later expressed with what they can do with the ball.
Okay.
So that is an essential factor.
Yeah. So now these facts are backed up, they've been recognized. And is SAFCA taking this on board in terms of trying to institute different sort of training regimes?
The first process is that we had to present it to our members, which happened yesterday, where we presented it to the SAFCA body and some media. Then the next process is to approach SAFCA and let them know that this is where football is moving.
So how has this research been taken? Is it, people behind this?
The South African coaches are behind this. They're actually, it has answered many questions that they have as well, because it's not just Kabelo, Mokoena and myself, it's been many coaches that have asked this question about this early maturation. Why do we have an advantage? The Under-17 World Cup, where Nigeria won it in 2013 and 2015, this was due to maturation, and FIFA has noted this and even deemed it a term as performance maturation.
Okay. I'm just wondering where South African players come into this, because I mean, I think from the world of football, we know that West African players, they're stronger, they're fitter, they're taller than a lot of their European counterparts, and they get contracts and they play at the highest level, even though they might have to leave their country to do so. South Africans not so much traditionally, but I suppose we're talking about this from a Eurocentric training point of view. Is there a difference between West Africans and how they respond and how South Africans respond?
Now, we have to look at it as a whole continent. Early maturation is not just exclusive to South African players. It is exclusive to all African players. So what happens is that in the West, you'll find that we get more sprinters. This is where the sprinting gene is more dominant. In the East, we get that we have long-distance athletes. They're your Ethiopians. And in South Africa, we've got mobility. We've got the short burst of pace. But now, how we coach that is what we are lacking in South African football. We do not exploit this. So hence, that's why training methods have to be rethought to work out this early maturation.
So what essentially are the training methods? What are we talking about here? Just give us some sort of inkling.
We're looking at plyometric training, resistance training. So we're looking at introducing things at a younger age, whereas we are 1.5 to 2 years older than Europeans, whereas the learning processes can start at 5, 6, whereas the European guidelines say at 7, 8. So that means the learning channels are open earlier. So intensive training can be introduced at an earlier stage for consolidation at 13, 14, whereas the European children, it will be 15 and 16.
Right. I'm just curious, how does like a role like poverty or malnutrition in a poor South African child's upbringing, how does that affect the research findings? That surely must play a role.
Well, it does play a role in terms of the body structure. Because obviously, without the proper nutritional intake, you don't grow to your full potential. But we were looking at the advantages it brings in terms of the football talent. So last year, I took an under-13 Gauteng provincial team, whereas I took kids from different backgrounds. And you could see the kids that come from a good background and the kids that come from a poverty background in terms of structure, but the ability was still on par.
Okay, so we're actually talking about your skill set and not your physical strength and that kind of thing. Okay, so now what's your next step in taking this research forward?
The next step that needs to happen is obviously engaging SAFCA about the coaching content. We need coaching content that addresses African issues, and we need more coaches to come to the floor with local knowledge, so that we can start doing coaching that will improve us, and we can be a better South African product to world football.
Are we also looking at I mean, I know from reading your presentation, the one thing that came into my mind was total football and the Ajax method. And that was transported around the world, and we saw, it went from Holland to Spain, and a lot of teams started incorporating this. Is this something that would be an ideal case scenario for you too, to be able to export it?
At the moment, it would not serve the world's purpose to have what we have. Okay. We need to start thinking for ourselves and getting ourselves moving, because the Ajax system is created for the people in Holland. The Dutch system is created for the Dutch. We need to now, as South Africans, come together and think what's best for our children, to raise them up to be better footballers, to cope with the demands of modern football. Because at the moment, what we're doing is we're trying to teach our kids the Dutch way and the English way and the Spanish way, and it's not working for African children. That's why we cannot reach our full potential.
Brilliant. Well, Selekedi, I wish you all the luck in bringing this forward, and I'm hoping that the powers that be will take it on. It's very interesting research that you guys have done. That was Selekedi Mogale, one of the authors of the study on the early maturation of African footballers and what needs to be done to modify training methods. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.